There's Carl with Randy. And there's Jerry. You get over here and do the focusing on it. Looks like it's in pretty good focus. And there's Leslie and Randy with Grandpa and Grandma Ohran. Looks like he's pulling Leslie's hair a little bit. And there's Grandma Brew. I think this is when they lived in American Fork. That's when Carl and Jerry was just married. Leslie would have been about 1 year old. What'd you say the date was on this, 48? Yeah. This is 1948, and here's the Great Salt Lake. I think we took this on our way to California, our first trip to California, Arlene and I. There's the little red Ford. You need to focus it a little. This is Donner Pass. It was in the wintertime. Boy, that old snow was deep. Donner Summit. Observation point. Arlene had to go and have her picture taken by it. That was my little old 37 Ford convertible. Here's the Sacramento River. And that's a drawbridge. It goes up and lets the big boats through, and then it serves as a highway going over the river. There's Arlene and Randy. This would have been about 1948. There's going the Golden Gate Bridge. Look at all the old cars. Yeah, it was a little foggy. A little misty. Of course, nowadays it'd probably be twice that much. I'm taking these out through the windshield of the cars. We go across the bridge. This is where I about got the car towed away. I parked it wrong and looked out, and they was hitching on, going to impound it. But being they decided I was a dumb driver from Utah, I think they only charged me $3 and let me off. This is going into the city of San Francisco. This is the cemetery where Arlene's mother is buried. I can't remember the name of it. Mother Golda P. Son Dwayne. I didn't know Arlene's brother was named Dwayne till I saw this movie. And that's Arlene's grandma and grandpa. This is a house that Arlene was born and raised in Burlingame. And this is Uncle Bert's home up in San Pedro before they moved to Long Beach. This is at Vernon Gales. Randy was about 9 months old there, I think. There comes Gail out, and there's Eric. Need a little more light on it there. This swing vern I had, I've always wanted one like it. Gail looks young there. He's even got hair. I wanted Eric to get in the swing with us, but he didn't want to get in without his dad, and Verna made him get back in. He wasn't so sure whether he liked that or not. She had to come get in the swing with him. I don't know, maybe it pays just leave that set right there, Randy. There's old Randall again, or Randy again, him and Eric. Well, Eric's older than you then, isn't he? By a couple of years. There's Gail and Verna's old Chevy. She used to have that when she's at home. And there's Narlene and Randy on the corner of Burlingame and having his picture taken sitting on the mailbox. Now we're up at Uncle Harold's, and that's, or Uncle Ken's, and that's Ken's wife and their little girl. I think they lived up in San Francisco. I think they lived in Burlingame. And there's Randall and Dad. And there's Narlene putting some flowers on her mother's grave. There's Uncle Harold, Narlene, and Harold's daughter's husband was just killed in an airplane crash, so she wasn't very happy. That was her right there. And that's Harold's boy. Harold give us $300 and says, here's some money for you to finish your trip and have a good time. And Moran's always giving their money away. He quite liked Randy. We just stayed there overnight, and then we left to go down to Uncle Bert and Aunt Thelma's down Highway 91. There's their old doggy. Here's the ocean. That's the first time I'd ever seen, no, that's not the first time I'd ever seen the ocean. It's the first time I'd ever seen this particular part of it. I think this is Monterey, where the monastery was, and the little red fort again, and that fancy bridge. The bridge is so pretty, I had to take a picture of it. There was some seals out on one of these rocks. There it is, and I tried to take a picture of it, but it didn't show up. And with some pretty good breakers coming in there. There's little old Randy sitting on the front of the car. Just had a new engine put in that car, and it, boy, it run like a top. I wished I had it today. He had a little old bed in the back seat, and he'd just go sound asleep while I was traveling. Now we're down at Uncle Bert and Aunt Thelma's, and there's the Zeppelin flying over, the Goodyear balloon. This is a flying wing that they built, and they never did fly it too much, but it did take off and fly around Los Angeles and then come back and landed. These pictures at the Los Angeles airport. Look at all the old prop-driven airplanes. No jets in them days. There's Uncle Cal and Aunt Thelma and Carl Dean. Aunt Thelma never did want her picture taken. No way. Here comes an airplane in. There, that's good right there, Randy. I'll leave it there. It's not quite as plain as it was. This is Howard Hughes' flying boat. They had it under this big building there, and they was doing some work on it. Now I understand it's in a building in the museum. But this is when it sat right out in the ocean bay. In that big building there, that's how high the tail of it was. There's the old oil wells. This is down at Long Beach. Us Utahns was getting a suntan. There's a ship out there, but it didn't show up too good. Aunt Thelma never wanted her picture taken. This is in the middle of winter. It's quite a change to go from Utah down there. I don't know who covered me up with sand. Maybe it was Carl Dean. I had a nice nap anyhow with my toes sticking out. Arlene again in her fancy bathing suit. Arlene and Eldon. There's Tommy Chandler's wife. This is 3 or 4 years after he got out of the service. Both of them put on a little weight. And this is Knott's Berry Farm. You seem to have good color right here. There's the ghost trail to Ghost Town. I guess that's quite a village today. They've enlarged on it so much. That was an old miner's wheels trailer. Mule pack train for hire. Uncle Bert and Aunt Thelma told this dummy in the jail all about me, and when I walked up, he says, "Hello there, Eldon Harding." I thought I was hearing things. He says, "I guess you left Randy home with Grandma." And I says, "Yeah, how did you know?" He says, "Oh, I know these things." They had a church there that you could get married, and that's the old hotel. It's quite a place to go see. It's interesting. They have a lot of people there, though. This is one of the days when they didn't have too many people. Ghost Town Fire Department, and then there was an old horse-drawn fire engine. Quack, 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 quack. Quackity, quack, quack. There's the church where you could get married if you wanted to. Deadwood Dick. There's his shoe sticking up out of his grave. Somebody put some flowers on the old boy's grave. Go in there and they had these hoochie coochie dancers. That pretty neat to see. There's the old train again. There's the jail where you looked in, the old sad eye told you all about yourself. Of course, Uncle Bert and Aunt Thelma had been there and put him up to it and told him. And here's the sheriff of Ghost Town. Boy, could he do a wicked dance. I don't know whether he had any music to go along with him. He probably did. This is inside one of the saloons. There he goes with a bunch of women on his arm. He was quite a character. He's probably dead now and gone. They had these cigar store Indians out on the sidewalk, and so we stopped to let Randy look at him, and he didn't know whether he liked him or not at first. He's crying a little bit there. But he got used to him. Pretty quick, he's grabbing him by the nose. And Arlene was sitting on that guy's lap. There, he gets that old miner by the nose. He's got him. He's just resting his hand on there. General Blacksmith's shop and store. I kept trying to get Aunt Thelma, but she was one that just didn't want her picture taken. She even covered her head up with a towel. This is Signal Hill. Oil wells so thick they look like pine trees there. Scaredest ever was hitchhiking there during the war and hear all them old oil wells. I expected a boogeyman to come out and get me any time. There's Uncle Bert and Aunt Thelma asleep in the back of the car.
Still can't see her face.
Still